Cue and Review, celebrating 40 years of audio production, welcomes you to this week's edition of the Glasgow Times Sports Podcast, recorded from our studio in the Bishopbriggs Media Centre and by our volunteers working from home. Keep up to date with Cue and Review news via our Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, or Instagram at Cue and Review. That's @CUEANDREVIEW, or get in touch with us directly by emailing information@cueandreview.com. That's INFORMATION @CUEANDREVIEW.com, or by calling us on 0141 772 3979. Please like and share our podcast and give us constructive feedback.
Evening Times Sport, June 25. Rude Clark blasted by referee chief. Report by Mark Walker. Argentina's refereeing body has accused Steve Clark of being rude for his criticism of their whistler Facundo Tello after his refusal to award Scotland a penalty against Hungary. The Scotland boss was raging at Tello's decision not to award a spot kick when Stuart Armstrong was preparing to shoot, and afterwards questioned why an Argentinian referee was in charge at the European Championships. But Tello has won praise in his own country from the Institute of Argentina Refereeing's director, Miguel Schim, an ex-FIFA referee who now advises the world's football's governing body. And he was not impressed at Clark's outburst. He said, "That was a very good job by Facundo Tello and his team of assistants, Gabriel Chad and Ezequiel Brilovsky, for the match between Scotland and Hungary. I was sorry Scotland tried to justify their failure to qualify with the comments the coach made. It was not a penalty, and his comments after the game were just rude. No one has a right to criticise the refereeing team in that way." Clark faces a sweat before seeing if UEFA take any action on his outburst, where he bitterly complained about Tello's performance and nationality. The Scotland manager had said, "The moment in the game is a penalty. It is 100% a penalty. Somebody has to explain to me why that is not a penalty, because otherwise I'm thinking there is something wrong. What is the point in speaking with the referee? He is from Argentina. What is the point? Why is it not a European referee? I do not understand why he is here and not in his own country refereeing the game. I do not understand the VAR can look at that and say it is not a penalty. Just my opinion." Report by Mark Walker. Evening Times Sport, June 25. Nick Rogers says, "Scotty Scheffler is golf's unsung hero." The tingle of expectation, the giddy clamour of anticipation, the mouth-frothing frenzy of excitement, and the inevitable crushing anticlimax. And that's just the brow-mopping roller coaster of emotions the sports editor goes through as he pores over my Tuesday column. The build-up and subsequent car crash of Scotland's final group game of Euro 2024, meanwhile, was even more delirious and deflating. "No, your column was far worse," countered said sports editor, as he gazed at my latest offering with the kind of strained rictus you would adopt when peering at Steve Clark's tactics board. "Oh well, onwards and upwards, or in the Scottish football team's case, backwards and sideways? As for Scotty Scheffler, well, it's business as usual, as the world number one rattled off his sixth victory of an extraordinary season at an eventful Travellers' Championship. Even a late invasion of Extinction Rebellion activists onto the 18th green could not ruffle Scheffler's feathers. No golf on a dead planet was a portentous message from the protesters. Given the wild harumphing that's generated by members when the greenkeeper puts the course closed sign up during a spell of bad weather, one can only imagine the grunts of dismay from Cammy, Ronnie and Bill when the secretary informs them that they can't have their usual 3-ball because the planet's dead. Knowing club golfers and their stubborn creature of habit ways, they would find a place for 18 holes somewhere amid the apocalypse. But I digress. Scheffler's playoff win over Tom Kim at TPC River Highlands on Sunday saw him accumulate the most wins before the month of July on the PGA Tour since Arnold Palmer plundered a good half-dozen in 1962. Palmer made it 7 when he won the Open at Troon. And where's this year's Open being held? You can nip to the bookies now. Scheffler's consistent, commanding run has been astounding, but, as we're all aware, you never know what those golfing gods have in store. Nelly Korda, for instance, was in the midst of an even more dominant surge of form when she won 5 straight titles and 6 and 7 starts on the LPGA Tour. Winning seemed easy. It never is, though. Since then, she has missed her last 3 cuts, with 2 of those 6 rounds being in the 80s, including an 81 in last weekend's Women's PGA Championship. Golf, at any level, has a startling ability to bring you crashing back down to earth with the sobering thud of an insipid Scotland performance in a must-win match. It's a fickle business. Given all the noise and nonsense that has consumed men's golf in this turbulent LIV-disrupted era, there's a sense that Scheffler's accomplishments over the last couple of years have not been given the recognition they truly deserve. Undervalued? Perhaps, but unrivaled? There's no doubt. Scheffler is a truly great golfer, but in a world obsessed with celebrity razzmatazz, clickbait and online hits, the 27-year-old, in many eyes, is viewed as dull, boring and uninspiring, and doesn't have the X factor of a Tiger Woods or Rory McIlroy. It is grossly unfair, but this is where we are in these times when style is favoured over substance and chutzpah is preferred to class. As Woods limps towards the end of his career, and golf continues to struggle with the impending reality of life without him, Scheffler just does not cut the mustard with some folk. You would think the wholesome, down-to-earth Scheffler would be the perfect man to be on top of the golfing world, as an antidote to the poison of greed and entitlement that has sullied the game's reputation over the past couple of seasons. Being brilliant at what he does on the course, however, is not enough. Scheffler, a devout Christian who married his childhood sweetheart, is not one to step out of line. Well, apart from being erroneously arrested during a chaotic PGA Championship the other month, nor is he prone to delivering controversial comment or bursting into wild histrionics if that pesky ball he hits for a living does not do what it's telt. The peculiar and perhaps lamentable thing is that someone like Tyrrell Hatton probably gets more traction and crass championing on social media for regular bouts of effing and blinding on the course than Scheffler does for actually winning. Scheffler, of course, will not in the least be bothered about that. The reigning Masters champion just gets on with doing what he does best. It's a shame, though, that what Scheffler does is not deemed worthy of wider acclaim. And another thing, and they're off. With the Open looming on the horizon, the journey towards Royal Troon for almost 1,900 golfers started yesterday in the 18-hole regional qualifying shootout. Get through that, and all you need to do is negotiate a 36-hole final qualifier next week, where only around 16 Troon tee times will be on offer across 4 different venues. Piece of cake. Yesterday's regional scramble took place at 15 courses throughout the UK and Ireland, and featured the usual eclectic mix of amateurs, club professionals, has-been, never-have-beens, and never-will-bees. For a select few who progressed, the dream is still alive. For those intrepid campaigners, meanwhile, who scribbled down 91s and 92s on the card, the dream is over for another 12 months. There's always next year. When it comes to the Open, some golfers never stop dreaming, says Nick Roger. Evening Times Sport, June 25. What Clark told Scotland dressing room after Hungary defeat. Report by Johnny McFarlane. Pain and disappointment were oozing out of the Scotland squad as they trooped through the mixed zone, a few visibly perturbed, following the painful defeat to Hungary on Sunday. And while a clearly hurting Scott McKenna was not a barrel of laughs either, he still feels there are positives to be pulled from the ashes of another failed campaign. He revealed that after the 1-0 loss in Stuttgart, the squad had discussed remaining united, and the manager, Steve Clark, stressed that in their future the possibility of reaching international tournaments remains bright. While some players will come in and others will go, the sense that Scotland are a busted flush amid the crushing disappointment of defeat was not one McKenna can get on board with. He said, "I think over the next few years there might be a few new faces added into the squad. That's the natural evolution of an international squad. But the lads were sitting in the dressing room afterwards, determined to stick together. We believe what the manager said after the game, that we can continue to get to these major tournaments. I think we are certainly a more experienced team than at the last Euros. The circumstances of the game was a challenge. The first game was always going to be very difficult, and we probably let ourselves down. The Switzerland game I thought was a proper Scotland performance, especially on the back of what happened in Munich. I thought we really stood up to a top team and kept ourselves in the tournament. Against Hungary, we maybe just needed to take one extra step or take a chance at the right moment, but it was not to be. Most agree that Scotland have a talented, if imbalanced squad. There was a sense before the tournament began that Clark had the tools for success. On the pitch, this was clearly a case of over-optimism, given the paucity of performances, unless the answer is psychological. Said McKenna, "I don't think so. I think that's a hard thing to answer. It has been such a long time since we got to tournaments, and 2 back-to-back was never going to just happen overnight. But no Scotland team has ever got past this stage so I really don't know how to answer that. The manager gives us his trust and picks the 11 he wants to go out and play. Ultimately, we've not picked up enough points to take us to the next stage of the tournament, so it's on us players. Disappointment is the overriding emotion just now. It's a difficult one to try and process, and it's probably going to take a few days, weeks, months. I think we all knew how big an opportunity we had to try and take it one step further than any team has before, but ultimately we fell short of that. We did not create as many chances as we would have liked. There was a lot of emotion on the night and a lot to play for. Maybe we looked a bit nervy at times, a bit safe, but we need to pick ourselves up from that in the weeks and months ahead and try to learn, because I do believe that this squad can get to more tournaments in the future. We need to learn from these type of opportunities. While there has already been intense criticism over results and performances, even the most ardent of Clark's critics would have to admit that he's had one hand tied behind his back with injuries. Nathan Patterson and Aaron Hickey's problems left the cupboard bare on the right flank, while arguably Serie A's best midfielder, Lewis Ferguson, surely would have added power and guile to the midfield. And while Lyndon Dykes has his critics, there's no doubt he occupies defenders in a way that frees up space for others. McKenna admits, yes, we lost some big players at big moments. Even losing a couple of lads before the tournament even started was a massive blow. Then losing Kieran the other night. He is such an inspirational player for the national team, and that was a massive disappointment. His absence gave me an opportunity to play, but there's absolutely no denying how big an impact he has on this team. McKenna will now regroup over the summer as his agents beaver away on a Bosman contract. The 27-year-old who spent the latter part of last season on loan at FC Copenhagen leaves Premier League Nottingham Forest on a free after a fallout with the club. He has been heavily linked with a move to boyhood heroes Celtic, but it appears nothing is signed and sealed. He said, "It's a case of going away, trying to recover. It's been a long season for a few reasons. Obviously starting the season at Forest, then being frozen out, was something I had never experienced, and that was testing at times. Then going to Copenhagen and getting to play for the last 6 months has been stressful. So it's time to go and relax, put the feet up for a few weeks, and see what develops." Report by Johnny McFarlane. Evening Times Sport, June 26. Celtic star fumes at VAR over headbutt. Report by Mark Walker. Celtic star Alistair Johnston insists he would have been sent off if the rules were reversed after he was headbutted by Peru star Marcos Lopez. But he praised his Canadian teammates for keeping their discipline in a fiery Copa America clash as they got the last laugh by winning 1-0. The Hoops fullback was the subject of a shocking assault by Feyenoord star Lopez, and the referee and VAR incredibly took no further action. But Johnson revealed it was exactly what they expected from the hot-headed South Americans. He said, "It really just encapsulates exactly what we knew we were going to get in this tournament. We cannot rely on the referees to give us anything. We just have to put the ball in the back of the net and pray that VAR lets it stand. We really cannot bank on getting any calls here. That's something we discussed going into this game. So I can't say I was too surprised. I got up and he waved it on. I just know if it had gone the other way, I have a feeling it would have been me that would have been walking down that tunnel. But that's football, and I am glad the team kept their composure, because that was an easy one where we could have lost it. We focused on the task, got in at half-time and regrouped. At the end of the day, no matter how ugly it gets, it always feels great when you walk away and get the points. It shows no matter the conditions, we can play against any team. We can compete with any team, no matter what they throw at us. And Johnson was delighted they won the scrap, and now face Chile next on Sunday, and he continued, "It was hard. It was a battle of attrition, which is the best way to describe it. It wasn't really football, it was a mental and physical battle. I am proud of the group for keeping our discipline. There was a lot of talk in the media it was going to be a street fight, and it ended up turning into one, and they eventually got the red card. We kept our cool. There were moments when we could have retaliated and been silly, but we stuck to the game plan and got the goal. It was not pretty, but in tournament football, it's about the result, and that's what the big teams do. We have given ourselves a really good chance of getting to the final group stages." Reports by Mark Walker. Evening Times Sport. June 26. Former Hibs boss on the way to Tottenham. Report by Ewan Payton. Former Celtic boss Ange Postecoglou looks set to appoint an ex-Scottish Premiership manager as his number 2 at Tottenham Hotspur. Reports have suggested that Nick Montgomery could be in line for the role vacated by Chris Davis in North London. The ex-Hoops coach recently left his position working under Postecoglou in order to become the head coach of Birmingham City in League One. It's now stated that Postecoglou has turned his attention to former Hibs boss Montgomery as his successor. The 42-year-old was sacked by Chiefs at Easter Road towards the end of last season after the club's failure to finish in the top 6 of the division. He was permanently replaced by Scottish Cup-winning hero David Gray, who is working under new sporting director Malky Mackay. Postecoglou will be familiar with Montgomery's body of work carried out in Australia before his experience in Scotland. He had an excellent record in the A-League, with a title triumph at Central Coast Mariners, his biggest achievement. The former midfielder was lined up for a potential return to management a month ago with Western Sydney Wanderers, but instead they brought in Perth Glory's Alan Stajic. Montgomery said after leaving Hibs, "It was an honour to be appointed manager of Hibs Football Club and to become part of a club with so much history." Report by Ewan Payton. Evening Times Sport, June 25. Letter from a German to the Tartan Army. Dear Scotsmen and women, I am writing to you from a small town near Düsseldorf. My intention is simply to say thank you. Thank you for turning our country into a volcano of joy. You have come to us with open hearts, a love of football, and a desire for a good time. With you, we were once again able to be people who sing, dance, and live together respectively. which is not always easy for Germans. 2018 was a tournament with the handbrake on. Corona killed any joy in 2021. And I'm not even talking about money-making show that was the World Cup, staged in Qatar. And then in June 2024, a bunch of enthusiastic people are coming to our country, our cities and our neighbourhoods. We Germans are carried away by the sound of bagpipes and the unbridled joy of countless people who love their country, which has never made it past the group stage. But we also let ourselves be infected by their enthusiasm that football is finally back. Life again at last. People celebrating with people. 2 Scotsmen help a frail man from Cologne through the rain. A neighbour drops beer bottles onto the tartan army from his balcony. So many videos, so many stories full of respect, and the simple joy of finally being together again. No Scotland, no party. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for showing us that a summer together can be so much more fun than a time alone. You have filled my heart and soul with joy, and restored my faith that humanity is not yet completely lost, except for the English who are lost. But something is always lost. In 2028, the Football Festival of Europe will be hosted by Great Britain. We'll come to Scotland. We probably won't make it to the stadium, but we want to bring back some of the joy of life that you brought to Germany, to the streets of Glasgow, Aberdeen, Edinburgh, Dundee, and Cochesbunt. It really is called that. Thank you for your joy. Thank you for your fun. Thank you for your songs. Thank you for your voices. Thank you for your music. Thank you, Scotland. Best regards. Christian Gielen, 47906 Kempen, Germany. Evening Times Sport, June 26. New Rangers ace tipped to make club millions. Report by Ewan Payton. Incoming Hamza Egeman has been tipped to make Rangers millions by an SPFL cult hero. Hibernian's League Cup winning star Maroon Zamama believes his fellow countryman has what it takes to succeed in the Scottish Premiership, and he reckons the 21-year-old's value could double by the time the striker pulls on a light blues jersey in a competitive game. Philippe Clement is set to add Egeman as his 5th summer signing, with the player costing in the region of £2 million, and it is expected he will be announced before representing his country at the Olympics in Paris next month. Zemama told the Scottish Sun, Morocco have qualified for the Olympics, and if they do well, it is inevitable their players will be watched by bigger clubs. If Hamza plays in the Olympics and does well, the valuation of him will change dramatically. It could turn out that Rangers have done some really clever business by signing him now. Qualifying for the Olympics is a big thing in Morocco. This is the first time the country have ever qualified in the last 3 competitions. Hamza was in the squad for the African Under-23 Cup of Nations last year. He went on as a substitute in the semi-final, which was played in his club FAR Rabat's stadium, but he got injured, had to be substituted, and missed the final. But Morocco still went on to win the trophy and qualify for the Olympics. After they won the cup, the squad were presented to King Mohammed to be congratulated. The squad going to the Olympics has not been named yet, but I would be surprised if Hamza is not in it. Hamza going to Scotland has been big news in Morocco. Many players from here go to France and Belgium, but going to Scotland has been very interesting here. Rangers are a massive club on the European stage, so it's good for football here that a club like that has scouted one of our young players and signed him. I believe Hamza will succeed in Scotland. He is a player who's going to be ideal for the style of football. I work at a football club, and after the transfer was done, the coaches there were asking me how I thought he would do in Scotland, but I generally think he will do well. Hibs fans, the ones who are old enough, will recall I was a smaller player who tried to use skill, but Hamza is a big strong guy who will be ready for the physical side of football that exists in Scotland. That won't worry him at all. He has a good technique for a striker. He's a powerful boy, and he'll actually be looking forward to testing himself against the kind of hard defenders that you have in Scotland. He's scored goals for Far and also for the under-23 team. He has not played for the full national team yet, but the squad is very strong. Morocco finished 4th at the World Cup in 2022. But his coach has spoken about him and how he has got him in his plans for the future. I am excited to see how he's going to do. I always watch the results in Scotland because I had good years of my playing career there. Report by Ewan Payton. Evening Times Sport, June 27. First Old Firm game of the season confirmed after fixture dates announced. Report by Ewan Payton. The first Celtic vs Rangers match for the new Scottish Premiership campaign has been confirmed. Brendan Rodgers' champions will host their arch Glasgow rivals on Saturday, August 31, as the sides lock horns for the first time in the new season. The pair will then do battle in the traditional festive period game a few months later. Philippe Clement will have his side geared up to play the Hoops at Ibrox on Thursday, January 2. The third scheduled fixture will then be back at Celtic Park, and this is due to be played on Saturday, March 15. The fourth and final league fixture between the pair cannot be determined until after the league split in April next year. SPFL Chief Executive Neil Doncaster commented, "The publication of the fixture list is always an eagerly anticipated day in the calendar for clubs and fans alike, and 24-25 promises to be another hugely exciting season across all 4 divisions of the SPFL. Season 23-24 saw record attendances, with more than 5 million supporters attending matches across all our competitions, again highlighting the huge interest in Scottish football. This coming season will see more matches shown live on TV than ever before, and I would like to thank Sky Sports and our other broadcast partners for helping to showcase the SPFL. I wish all 42 clubs the very best for season 24-25 and hope supporters continue to enjoy the drama and passion that Scottish football is so renowned for." Gary Hughes, Director of Football at Sky Sports, said, "We are delighted to bring fans an unprecedented 4 matches across the opening weekend to mark the start of our new SPFL season. Our commitment to showcasing top-tier Scottish football continues, with up to 60 matches exclusively live in 24-25. We look forward to an exciting season ahead." Report by Ewan Payton. Evening Times Sport, June 27. Next season's football fixtures announced as Rangers have to play away from Ibrox. Report by David Irvin. Rangers are set to play 2 home matches away from Ibrox after the Scottish Premiership fixture list was revealed this morning. The Ibrox club discovered their league schedule for the 24-25 season when Chiefs announced the fixture dates for the new campaign. And there is particular intrigue in Rangers' first month of fixtures, with the club set to play their home matches at an alternative venue as building work continues at Ibrox. Club chiefs admitted last week that delays in material shipments have meant they will need to play matches elsewhere at the start of the season. It is expected the work could be completed by September, meaning home matches in August will have to be played elsewhere. Rangers have been issued 2 home matches in August against Motherwell and Ross County. Rangers begin their campaign away to Hearts before hosting Motherwell on August 10 and then Ross County on August 24. It is understood no solution has been finalised for an alternative venue, meaning it remains unknown where the 2 home matches will be played. A club statement recently confirmed Rangers have been advised of a delay in a material shipment from Asia, which is likely to have an impact on the programme for the completion of the Copeland stand works. It is therefore expected, unfortunately, that there will be an impact on matches at Ibrox at the beginning of the 24-25 competitive season. The club has engaged with the SPFL and UEFA in order to review planned contingency arrangements. Naturally, everyone at Ibrox is deeply disappointed with this news. The club is working intensively to ensure that all steps are taken to deliver the project at the earliest possible date, and a further progress update will be issued to supporters in due course. Evening Times Sport, June 27. Rangers poised to land 5th transfer signing. Report by David Irvin. Rangers are poised to complete their 5th signing of the summer transfer window as Liam Kelly closes in on a return to Ibrox. The Motherwell goalkeeper is set to make the switch to Rangers after completing a medical. Kelly, who had been on international duty with Scotland, had signed a short-term deal at Motherwell to stretch beyond the tournament. The reason for the deal was to ensure Motherwell received a financial boost as a result of the goalkeeper representing his country. However, Kelly is expected to finalise a switch to Rangers to become Philippe Clement's 5th new arrival of the summer. Once the transfer has been completed, Rangers will have Jack Butland, Kelly and Robbie McCrory on the books in the goalkeeping department after John McLaughlin left in the summer. It is expected Kelly will provide backup to Butland during the new season, with McCrory set to depart the club in a bid to land first-team football elsewhere. As reported by the Rangers Review, Ibrox Chiefs will demand a fee in the region of £500,000 for the goalkeeper to be allowed to leave in a transfer deal. There is active interest in McCrory from Premiership clubs as well as clubs in England. Rangers also have youth academy prospect Mason Munn signed for the next season, with the 18-year-old penning a deal until 2028 earlier this week. Clement has already bolstered his squad this summer with the arrivals of Jefte, Oscar Cortez, Connor Barron and Clinton Nisiala. Hamza Igamane is also expected to complete his switch to Rangers in the near future. Report by David Irvin. Evening Times Sport, June 27. Steve Clarke must place faith in youth. Report by Graham McGarry. Scotland's Euro 2024 campaign, lamentably, is now in the past. It may be too soon for some to leave it behind, and the pain will no doubt linger long among the Tartan army. But the national team now must look to the future, and quickly. A devilishly tricky Nations League group kicks off in September, when Poland come to Hampden, before a visit to Lisbon to face Portugal. Croatia are the other side, making up the section. Whether Scotland go into these fixtures with Steve Clarke still at the helm remains to be seen, but unless he himself has a change of heart after his current period of reflection, it would appear likely. Many commentators in defence of Clarke have argued that he has done an admirable job, despite the limitations of the players he has available to him, while others would contend that his cautious approach failed to get the most out of as talented a group that the nation has had at its disposal in a generation or two. Either way, both groups would likely agree that there is a need for the national side to raise the standard of player further still, if Scotland are not only to make the World Cup in 2 years, but have a shot of finally ending their group stage hoodoo. That means Clarke, once he has made a huge decision on his own future, has a few more to make when it comes to the international futures of some of his players. The disappointment in Germany may be the end of the road for many of them. Captain Andy Robertson is 30 and will likely have one last campaign in him at his peak. Callum McGregor is 31 and may just hang in there too, despite finally showing signs of some wear and tear towards the end of the campaign, from years of cranking out 50-plus games a season for Celtic and Scotland. There are others from Clarke's 26-man Euro 24 pool on the wrong side of 30, and who may never be seen in a Scotland jersey again. Liam Cooper, Kenny McLean, and James Forrest are 32, for example. Able servants to their country as many of them have been, it is time for Clarke to clear the way for some new blood ahead of the World Cup qualifying campaign. Because for all that there are constant laments over player development in Scotland, there are talented youngsters out there. To Clarke's credit, but for injury, Ben Doak would have travelled to the Euros with Scotland. Whether he would have seen a minute of action is a point of debate, given that Tommy Conway was called up to replace him and never got off the bench, not even in those last desperate moments against Hungary. At these European Championships, we have seen Spain throw in 16-year-old Barcelona star Lamine Yamal, and Turkey put their faith in 19-year-old Real Madrid prospect Arda Güler. While in Scotland, we are still talking about not putting too much pressure on the shoulders of 23-year-old Billy Gilmour, as if he is a precocious youngster just making his way into the game. Scotland had the oldest squad at the Euros, at an average age of 28.79. This is not a new phenomenon or something peculiar to Clarke, in fairness to him. But unless we give these youngsters an opportunity, not only will we never know if they are good enough or not, but we are hampering their chances to reach their full potential as players. So even when Lyndon Dykes makes a welcome return to the squad in September, either Conway should remain there, Doak should be drafted in, or both. With the greatest of respect to Jacob Brown, we have seen enough of him to know that he is unlikely to ever become a regular for Scotland. In midfield, Lewis Ferguson has to play a bigger role when he is fit once more. But let's also get the likes of David Watson, Connor Barron and Lennon Miller in and around the squad, in place of the likes of McLean and Ryan Jack. On the left, is there value in Greg Taylor playing understudy to Robertson when he is unlikely to be the man to succeed him? Or would it not make more sense to bring Josh Doig into the fold as the more feasible long-term option? See also Max Johnston on the right, who should be third in line behind Aaron Hickey and Nathan Patterson. Clark acknowledged before the European Championships that his squad might need a little refresh going into these Nation League fixtures and the World Cup qualifying campaign. But the paucity of the performances show that it needs an urgent injection of youthful energy and enthusiasm. If Clark wants to shake perceptions of him being overly cautious, then it is not only in his tactics that he can do so. He can start placing some faith in the young talent this nation is producing. Just as he would have been forgiven more for Scotland's defeat to Hungary had he sent his team to go out swinging, so too will he be given leeway for losses to higher-ranked countries in the Nations League if there are clear signs of where he wants to develop his team. His loyalty to his players has been commendable, and a huge part of this side's relative success together. But it is time for Clark and Scotland to look to the future, says Graham McGarry. Evening Times Sport, June 27. Hungary's Varga injury could have shattered skull, report by Mark Walker. Hungary's star Barnabas Varga will be missing for at least 6 months after his brutal injury against Scotland, according to the specialist surgeon who operated on him. And the injury was so severe, it could have led to a loss of movement in his eyeball muscles. The Ferencváros star was stretchered off and rushed to hospital after a clash with Scotland keeper Angus Gunn during the Euro 2024 game in Stuttgart. And although the 29-year-old is now back in his homeland recovering, specialist surgeon Zsolt Noel has underlined the severity of the impact injury. He explained, "Everything is being done in order for Barnabas Varga to recover, but in this case, the big question is how he will be able to mentally process what happened. The Scottish goalkeeper collided with Varga's face with his elbow in a place where there is a bone system consisting of very thin walls. The area of skull under the nose and eyes had been hit hard enough to shatter it. There was also a risk that the bony wall of the eyeball would be damaged, which could have resulted in the eye movement muscles not being able to function properly. This injury is brutal. We chose to reconstruct with minimal exposure, during which the damaged area was fixed from the inside through the sinus with special plates. But this will take at least half a year to heal, and he will have to wear a specialist mask for up to a year, which can provide psychological safety for the player." Report by Mark Walker. Evening Times Sport, June 28. The legacy of the Commonwealth Games of 2014. Report by Anne Fotheringham. A woman stands amid the rubble of her former home. A man stares in the window of an empty community centre. A swathe of derelict land awaits development. The photographs which make up Beyond the Games, a new exhibition which looks at the legacy of the 2014 Commonwealth Games on Dalmarnock, paint a fascinating, moving and often haunting picture of the East End community 10 years on. This is the culmination of arts charity Strange Fields' 6-month-long residency with photographer Chris Leslie. Since January this year, the project has revisited the work and people Chris engaged with between 2007 and 2014 to document the story of Dalmarnock and the impact of the Games on local residents, buildings and the wider community. In 2007, Chris began a multimedia project, Disappearing Glasgow, to document the changes he saw as a local resident and the impact it was having on the lives of his community. As part of the project, he spoke to people who live and work in the area, and the stories he collected will be presented at Strange Fields French Street venue between July 5 and 28. In one of the photographs, Dalmarnock resident and community activist David Stewart, who campaigned for the new Legacy Hub Community Centre, looks through the windows of the empty building. The flagship building opened in 2015, but then closed after the owners, the People's Development Trust, went into administration in 2019. In another image from June 2011, Margaret Giaconelli stands outside the remains of her home. A few months earlier, explains Chris, she and her family were evicted by more than 90 police and sheriff officers who had served a compulsory purchase order on her home as part of the development for the Athletes' Village. Ruby Hunter is pictured outside the entrance to her close on Connell Street. She says community spirit in Dalmarnock has disappeared and is angry about what she calls the broken promises made to long-term residents. Tony McDermott, pictured in April 2008 as development for the Games begins, stands in the concrete rubble of the demolished high-rise flats, offering a souvenir piece of Dalmarnock rock. He claims the land is now worth a fortune. Now 30, Tony was photographed again by Chris earlier this year. He took up a place on a trainee employment scheme as part of the Games investment, first working in a leisure centre, and today he is a prison officer. Another image shows local councillor George Redmond in August 2008 at the corner of Arden Lee Street, where he was brought up as a young boy. The Commonwealth Games developments are about to begin, and George tells Chris it is a time of excitement and rebirth in Dalmarnock. He adds, "The people have waited for more than 30 years for this." 16 years later, he tells Chris there is still much work to be done in Dalmarnock, emphasising that a community is more than just new housing. Another image shows Dalmarnock's young people at the Baltic Street Adventure Playground, set up as a temporary park just before the Games. 12 years later, it still runs as an outdoor adventure playground, but also serves as a community hub with a nursery and food pantry. Chris said, "The Dalmarnock I photographed more than 16 years ago is almost unrecognisable today. The area's physical transformation has been comprehensive and is clearly visible to everyone. However, the lingering question has always concerned the legacy of the Games and its true impact on the residents of Dalmarnock. This exhibition aims to provide a platform for the residents to voice their thoughts on the legacy and to explore what the next 10 years might hold. Beyond the Games, a photographic journey by Chris Leslie runs from July 5 to 28 at Strange Field in Dalmarnock. Report by Anne Fotheringham. Evening Times Sport, June 28. Calls made for St Mirren exhibition in Paisley Museum. Report by Jack Thompson. Calls have been made for the creation of an exhibition in Paisley Museum to celebrate the 150th anniversary of St Mirren Football Club in 2027. Lifelong Saints supporter Councillor Eddie Devine is keen to see Renfrewshire Council and One Wren, the trust responsible for culture in the area, collaborate on a project to mark the approaching milestone. Although there are still 3 years to go, the veteran politician has decided to set the wheels in motion to ensure there is plenty of time to plan a fitting display. Councillor Devine, who represents Paisley South East, has put forward a motion to this week's full council meeting seeking support from fellow elected members for the idea. He explained his thinking to the Local Democracy Reporting Service, saying, "I'm doing it this early because I know the museum plan what they're going to do years ahead. I did not want to leave it until the last minute because it would then be difficult for them. I think it is important to celebrate 150 years of St Mirren Football Club when the time comes. I would like to see a specific space with St Mirren items in it, whether that's photographs or memorabilia. I have had early conversations with One Wren, and they're interested in doing something, but I feel the council also has to put their weight behind it. It is an institution in Paisley. The saying is, Paisley is St Mirren and St Mirren is Paisley, and that's it for me. Even supporters of other clubs have a lot of time for St Mirren. They're well thought of in Renfrewshire and beyond. The Buddies, who were founded in 1877, compete in the Scottish Premiership and finished 5th in the league last season, qualifying for European football for the first time since 1987. The text of the motion to the Council reads, Council calls upon One Wren, with the support of the Council, to produce an exhibition to celebrate the 150th anniversary of St Mirren Football Club in 2027. Meanwhile, the museum, which has been undergoing a £45 million transformation, is expected to reopen in 2025. Report by Jack Thompson. Evening Times Sport, June 28. Carter Vickers slaughtered in USA verdict. Report by David Irvin. Cameron Carter Vickers received a scathing review for his cameo display in the USA's defeat to Panama in the Copa America. The Celtic defender stepped off the bench in the second half in the disappointing group stage loss. Former Celtic loan player Timo Weah was sent off after just 18 minutes as the US stumbled in their second outing in the competition after victory over Bolivia in the tournament opener. Weah was dismissed after an off-the-ball incident as he appeared to lash out at Roderick Miller, catching the Panama defender on the head with an outstretched arm. Despite the numbers disparity, the USA did go ahead. The lead would only last 4 minutes though, as Panama levelled. With the scores locked at 1-1, Carter Vickers replaced Giovanni Reina, and goalkeeper Matthew Turner was subbed off for Ethan Horvath at the break. But Carter Vickers, who has earned major plaudits for his performances for Celtic, did not enjoy a positive first appearance at the 2024 Copa America. Having been left on the bench against Bolivia, Carter Vickers was handed the opportunity to stake a claim against Panama, but instead he has come in for heavy criticism over his display. On Golazo America, former goalkeeper Tony Meola blasted Carter Vickers in his match ratings as he offered the Celtic defender the lowest grade for his outing. Stated Meola, "The backline, Anthony Robinson, is the only one I give a grade to in this match, to be honest. Cameron Carter Vickers, whatever the lowest grade is that we want to give a player, he was poor in the game, almost cost the United States." Report by David Irvin. Evening Times Sport, June 28. Glasgow hosts world's largest walking football festival. Report by Sandy Suresh. More than 800 players flocked to a Glasgow sports facility for what is said to be the world's biggest one-day walking football festival. The Walking Football Scottish Cup was held on June 22, 6 days ago, at the Glasgow Green Football Centre and was organised by Walking Football Scotland and sponsored by Chest, Heart and Stroke Scotland, CHSS. 83 football teams from across Scotland gathered at the football centre to compete in the tournament across various categories. Jane Claire Judson, Chief Executive at CHSS, said, "It was brilliant to see so many people embrace the Walking Football Scottish Cup to make it the biggest event of its kind in the world once again this year." Chest, Heart and Stroke Scotland is committed to supporting the 1 in 5 people across the country with our conditions to manage their conditions and live full lives with the right support at the right time and in the right place. We want to improve health outcomes for people across the country, and primary and secondary prevention measures like walking football keep people active and reduce the risks of heart attacks and strokes. The partnership with Walking Football Scotland is ideal for us as we can promote these health benefits across the country and offer essential health checks via walking football clubs across the country. Kenny McLean, President of Walking Football Scotland, said, "Saturday was another fantastic day in promoting walking football across Scotland. There are so many people within the sport who take it up because they have had significant events, be it heart attacks or strokes, and it is the vehicle they use to get fitter. There have been other people who have been playing walking football, and after they've been playing, they've had heart attacks and other health issues, but it's because of their fitness through walking football that it has actually saved their life." The tournament ended with winners receiving their awards from Jane Clare and former international player Rose Riley. Report by Sandhya Suresh. Evening Times Sport, June 28. Ryan Jack in Rangers' farewell message. Report by David Evan. Ryan Jack has shared a Rangers farewell message after leaving the club at the end of the season. The former Ibrox midfielder thanked managers, coaches, teammates and supporters as he reflected on the crazy roller coaster of playing for the club. The 32-year-old Jack joined Rangers from Aberdeen and spent 7 years with the Govan outfit before leaving as a free agent this summer. On Instagram, Jack wrote, "Now the season is done and dusted. I would like to say it's been an absolute honour and privilege to wear the Rangers badge over the last 7 years. It has meant so much to me. From growing up as a fan and having a dream to go and live that dream has been a crazy roller coaster and one that will live with me for the rest of my life. Massive thanks to my family who have always been by my side throughout the good and bad and have lived every high but also picked me up through every low. Massive thank you to all my managers and coaching staffs over that time. Massive thank you to all my teammates that I played alongside. I have met some real good people and friends for life. Most importantly, massive thank you to the fans, the people who will always be there supporting through the good and the bad. You are the ones that keep driving this great club forward, and the support I have had over the 7 years has been nothing short of incredible. Some of the memories we have had together from getting the club back into Europe to 55 and on to Champions League football and a European final. Your support has never been unnoticed and will never be forgotten. I will now just be one of you, and I will be supporting the team moving forward from the outside. I wish Philippe, his staff and players all the best for next season and going forward. All the best. Already Dundee have made clear they would be interested in signing Jack on a free. Report by David Irvin. Evening Times Sport, June 28. UEFA chief says referee got things correct in Scotland game. Report by Graham McGarry. UEFA Managing Director of Refereeing, Roberto Rossetti, says that the decision not to award Scotland a penalty against Hungary was the correct one, saying that Stuart Armstrong initiated contact with Hungarian defender Vili Orban. Scotland manager Steve Clarke was livid after the eventual 1-0 defeat that eliminated the national team from the European Championships, heavily criticising Argentinian referee Facundo Tello for his decision not to award his side what he felt was a clear penalty as Armstrong tumbled to the ground inside the area. Rossetti says that the incident was checked by the VAR team, who deemed that an on-field review was unnecessary, and he also said that the Scots were fortunate not to concede a penalty of their own earlier in the second half for a pulling offence by John McGinn at the opposite end of the pitch. Rossetti said, "This was a very tough game, with a couple of controversial incidents. There was one, for example, in minute 68, when there was a possible penalty because number 7 of Scotland, John McGinn, was pulling the opponent's shirt just before the incident with Stuart Armstrong. So this was one of the possible penalties. Then there was, of course, in minute 79 in the penalty area of Hungary, another incident. This was, let's say, in favour of Hungary. The second one was in favour of Scotland when the attacker of Scotland, Armstrong, was in front of the Hungarian. If you watch it from behind the camera, there was a movement of the attacker towards the Hungarian. So another controversial decision. Of course, the VAR checked it. They check everything. They checked the previous one and the second one, and they decided it was just physical contact. This is what happened on the pitch. There was no intervention because, in their opinion, the attacker changed the direction towards the defender, and in his opinion, it was just a physical contact to challenge the defender. It was checked, and in the end, there was no intervention. In this match, there were two controversial situations. One was a clear pulling in the penalty area, but you didn't mention that. And then there was the Armstrong situation, which was checked and decided in this way. Thank you. Report by Graham McGarry. Evening Times Sport, July 1. Celtic-linked goalkeeper released by Premier League side. Report by Ewan Payton. Vaclav Ladke is officially a free agent amid links with a move to Celtic. The former St Mirren goalkeeper has departed Ipswich Town following the end of his contract today. He played a major role in the Suffolk side's incredible back-to-back promotion from League One to the Premier League, playing every single match of the Championship campaign last term. A statement by Ipswich reads, Vaclav Ladke has left the club following the expiration of his contract. The Czech goalkeeper, who featured in every game for the Blues in last season's promotion-winning campaign, made a total of 71 appearances during his time at Portman Road. Now 33, Vaz arrived in Suffolk from Salford City and made his debut for Town at home to Morecambe on the opening day of the 21-22 campaign. The club thanks Vaz for his time at Town, and he departs with our very best wishes for the future. It was the Czech's form for the Buddies during the 2021 season that saw him earn a move to England. He originally joined Salford City before linking up with Ipswich. He claims he previously turned down a move to Rangers amid his desire to play in England. Now it seems likely interest from clubs north and south of the border will be sparked again. Celtic were linked with him back in January, with reports in his homeland claiming the Scottish champions had registered their interest. Vaclav said as he addressed the speculation, if you are in a good position and playing well in the Championship, and obviously the team is doing well, that's something which makes other clubs interested. I think everybody in this squad can go and play anywhere else. It's nice, it's good to hear it, and listen, I'm just going to carry on, and I want to push more. I believe there's a lot more to deliver, and it's great to be in that position. Latke's agent, Martin Stepanovsky, said at the time, we have some teams registering inquiries, which is understandable given his performances, the position of Ipswich, and the expiring contract. Evening Times Sport, July 1. Leeds reject £35 million bid for Archie Gray. Report by Martin Macmillan. Leeds have rejected a bid in the region of £35 million from Brentford for 18-year-old Archie Gray. Gray plays for the England under-18s but remains eligible to play for Scotland and is among the club's most valuable assets. The PA news agency understands the West Yorkshire club were unwilling to accept the structure of the deal for Gray and will only sell on their terms. Gray starred last season as Leeds' quest for an immediate return to the Premier League ended with a 1-0 defeat to Southampton in the Sky Bet Championship playoff final at Wembley. Gray is a midfielder who also operated at right back last season, and he could still depart Ellen Road this summer as there is interest from other Premier League clubs. Chelsea and Tottenham are among those reportedly tracking Gray, who signed a new long-term contract in January. Leeds are under pressure to make at least one lucrative sale in order to comply within financial fair play rules after failing to return to the top flight. Report by Martin Macmillan. Evening Times Sport, July 1. Barron's admiration for Rangers hero. Report by Graham McGarry. As has been extensively documented, Conor Barron grew up as an Aberdeen supporter, making his move to Ibrox a less than popular one in the Granite City. Having been a Dons fan himself, though, you might think it unlikely he would have looked up to any Rangers players when he was a youngster. You might think it even unlikelier that the player in question would be Paul Gascoigne, given the treatment he dished out to Aberdeen during his Rangers career. Most memorably, his sensational Ibrox hat-trick in the 3-1 win that clinched an 8th league title in succession back in 1996. Barron could not help but harbour a grudging admiration for the talented Gascoigne. The 21-year-old would never compare himself to the mercurial Geordie, with his own strengths a little less eye-catching, if sure to be useful to this Rangers side nonetheless. But when asked if there was a Rangers player he had grown up admiring, there was no hesitation. Said Barron, "Gaza. I looked up to him a lot. My dad was a big Gaza fan, and he kind of introduced me to him when I was a young boy. I've watched his clips, and I loved the way he played, and I know how successful he was at this club. He was one that I looked up to a lot at this club." Barron has many direct links to Rangers and had plenty of potential contacts to lean on for advice ahead of his move to Ibrox. The most obvious one would have been a man who has walked the same path from Pittodrie to Glasgow in Ryan Jack, but there have been no shortage of brains for Barron to pick. And he said, "I never managed to speak to Ryan, as he was away with Scotland at the Euros, but I spoke to Scott Wright and Kevin Thompson, Liam King, Alex Lowry, all the young boys that are here. I spoke to the manager and the staff, and it was an easy decision." Perhaps the opinion he placed most stock in was that of former Rangers midfielder Thompson, who was not only close in profile as a player to Barron, but who coached him in the early days of his career. He said, "I got introduced to Kevin earlier, and earlier in my career I was on loan at Kelty Hearts and had a successful spell under him. The things he taught me were brilliant, and the way he wanted to play suited me to a T and helped my development a lot. It really felt like I came on as a player under him." Having that chat, he told me things about the past and what it was like when he was here as a player and now as a coach. He only had good things to say. He's always there and said to me he's just a text message away if I need anything, which is nice to hear from someone like him and the stature he has at the club. Having gleaned knowledge from the past and leaned on the experience of his own career and those who have gone before him, Barron feels ready to fix his gaze on the future. There is gratitude for what has gone before, but Barron's immediate focus has now switched to establishing himself in Philippe Clement's team before helping Rangers towards their collective goals. He said, "I picked up a lot of experiences at Aberdeen, and they've all helped me in my career. I look back and pay thanks to the club. I'm respectful of everything they have done for me, and it will always be remembered, because they have made me who I am here today. So I say thank you to them. But my next chapter is Rangers, and that is where we go from there. The expectations are clear, individually and as a team. We know what we need to do, and we will keep working on things on the training pitch to make sure we are 100% equipped going into the start of the season." Report by Graham McGarry. Evening Times Sport, July 1. Scotland Euro flops told it's not a computer game. Report by Robbie Hanratty. Kenny Miller believes the Scotland players need to take a share of the responsibility for the Euro 2024 group stage exit, rather than the finger being aimed solely at Steve Clarke. The national team were eliminated from the European Championships following a 1-0 defeat against Hungary. Clarke's side began their campaign with a 5-1 thrashing by Germany before an improved showing during a 1-1 draw against Switzerland. Miller watched Scotland play into Hungary's hands throughout that final game, which was dubbed must-win if they had any chance of progressing into the knockout stage. Clarke, much to the Tartan Army's frustration, gave Scottish Premiership top scorer Lawrence Shankland minimal minutes at the tournament and instead opted to start with Che Adams. Miller, who scored 18 times from 69 appearances, leading the line for Scotland, understands why many supporters want Clarke relieved of his managerial duties, but was quick to highlight that football is not a computer game, and the men on the pitch do have the ability to take matters into their own hands. Said Miller, "I also think a lot gets made. The manager, the coaches, it's their job. They've got to find the game plan and the tactics. See, as a player and an international top player who's playing Premier League football and has won trophies and big things, sometimes you need to make decisions on the pitch. Like when we are playing Hungary and they are sitting off us. Again, I know wee Billy Gilmour well. He was looking for forward passes all the time, but he just never had the players or the numbers forward to actually play through. If you think of the one where he runs across the pitch and reverses it to Che Adams, that's how much he wants to play forward, but there's no bodies there. Could he maybe just say, Che, just run in behind, because I'm going to put it in there, and see Scott and John get in behind him? Listen, it can come from either the player on the park or the manager. The players have got to make decisions on the pitch. It's not a computer game. The manager's not standing at the side, deciding every pass and every movement. So as players, you can take a responsibility. Whether it's Callum McGregor or even a centre-back saying, by the way, Che, just when I get it, make a diagonal run over there for a forward run that we've not done all tournament. The argument was then made that Scotland may have approached the 3 Group A matches differently had Lyndon Dykes been fit, but Miller still expected more from the available forwards and added, I played that role 69 times. I'm not 6'3" like Lyndon Dykes, but I'll fight every single day, and I'm still going to battle. If I put him off and he knocks it down in front of us, John McGinn and Scott McTominay, even Gilmour or McGregor, can run onto it. That's also a tactic. We are playing to get up the pitch. Lyndon Dykes, by the way, doesn't win every header, and he'd be up against a Champions League winning defender in Antonio Rudiger if he was playing in the Germany game. But what you can do is play into spaces to get up the pitch. We never did that against Hungary. We just kept it nice, 75% possession, and got nowhere. Report by Robbie Hanratty.
That concludes this week's edition of the Glasgow Times Sports Podcast. Please remember to subscribe to our channels at Q and Review and to tell your friends about our service.